grew up in Exeter, California. I am technically the fourth generation of agriculturalists in my family. My dad and his parents and grandparents, 3 generations deep, all worked in the fresh fruit and packing house sector. My dad was the packing house cold storage manager, and I grew up in the packing house. I spent summers playing tennis in the cold storage rooms and keeping myself occupied and out of the way of the forklifts and the truck drivers. We were always rescuing the stray cats and critters around the packing house growing up. My mother was a huge animal lover and imparted a huge animal lover heart to myself and my sister, which is why Maddie Jane's here today and part of this story. My mom was a huge servant leader in our community, and her name was Gay, and she really imparted to me that need to be a servant leader in my community. So 4-H and FFA were both big parts of my childhood experience. My parents loved the outdoors. We did a lot of camping and hiking, horseback riding. I got into the 4-H horse experience at the age of 11 and stayed in it for the next 8 years and bought my own horse and got really involved in livestock production. So 4-H and FFA propelled me through college and completed my bachelor's and master's degrees and student taught, and fell in love with ag in the classroom, which ended up being my first job opportunity, my first real grown-up job, you might say. I was hired by Judy Culbertson right out of grad school at California Foundation for Agriculture in the Classroom. And when I moved back to Exeter, which unfortunately was right on the heels of my mother's passing from cancer, and it was probably the most significant part of her passing, that she wanted to make sure that her pets would certainly continue to have a place in our family. So I inherited her Labrador, a little black mix named Mandy. And while I was grieving the loss of my mother and kind of reestablishing myself as a young adult in my Farm Bureau career here in Tulare County, I discovered that there was a lot of need for working with animal rescue programs. I started giving time and support, charity, and talent to local groups just like the SPCA that my mom had worked with for many, many years as a volunteer at Valley Oak. And when I met my husband in 2009, he had 2 Labradors, and I had Mandy, my mom's black lab. And all of a sudden we had a 3 Labrador household. We decided that our commitment to local charities and rescue work would involve our passion for animals, and that we would volunteer our time with a specific rescue known as the Labrador Retriever Rescue of Fresno. Since 2014, we have been fostering significant amounts of beautiful dogs. About 125 foster dogs have come through mine and my husband's home. And I've even been able to adopt some of our foster dogs to board members in the Farm Bureau. And so everyone at my office knows that the dogs are a big part of our lives. Maddie Jane often goes to work and is kind of one of the unofficial mascots at the Farm Bureau office. And my 2 wonderful support staff, Sandy and Susan, are both dog lovers, and they know that there's a lot of days they may come to work and get a little dog fur on their clothes as well. The County Services Shelter Manager for Tulare County Animal Shelter called me on a Sunday as the SQF fire and the Castle fire were both erupting in the Sierras above our communities. And she said, "This is going to be a really odd ask, but would you head out to the Wood Lake Rodeo grounds and just be there to help me start staging an evacuation site for large animals?" So I donned, my Wranglers and my best cowboy boots and a work jacket and some work gloves and headed out to the Wood Lake Lions Club rodeo grounds, where I became the manager of that large animal evacuation center for the next 22 days. One of the most compelling reasons that I was excited to return to working in Tulare County Farm Bureau as their executive director was because that is a Farm Bureau with a really strong commitment to ag education. We also have several other really neat programs, such as the High School Leadership Program. I graduated from the program in 1993 when I was a high school junior, and went on to receive a scholarship both from the county and then the State Farm Bureau, which truly led later to my employment interview with the California Ag in the Classroom and California Farm Bureau's leadership. The high school leadership program is modeled after the California Agriculture Leadership Program. And I am blessed that I was able to be part of that experience as a fairly young adult. I was 27, 28 years old going through that program. It gave me an opportunity to build some really amazing mentorships with classmates in class 34. You know, in California Ag Leadership, there's kind of a mantra that the busiest people apply. And we always say, but we want the busy people, because the busy people figure out how to make things happen. They prioritize work and family and their faith and their community, and they are servant leaders. And that's what Common Threads is really about, is servant leadership and finding women that put time and talent and treasure all together in an extraordinary way that promotes and tells the story of agriculture.